Hi everyone, Yasas que kalos irsate to another episode of Dimitra's Dishes. Today we are making samousades. Samousades is basically like a big baklava roll that has some sesame seeds in it, hence the name. Sesame translates to sesame in Greek. It's so delicious. It's usually made with a homemade phyllo, which is thicker and more rustic, but today I'm going to be using store-bought country-style phyllo, which is a little bit thicker. I think it's the number 10, but I'll write down for sure on the recipe so you know what you're going to be looking for. If you can't find it, you could definitely use the number 4, which is a thinner cut phyllo. It is going to be a little more delicate and you're going to need a few more layers, but I'll put all those instructions on the blog post on the website. This is so good, you guys. Make this, call some friends over, make some coffee. It's perfect for sharing. Let's get started. So just like baklava, this is a syrup-based dessert. So we always start with the syrup first because we want it to cool down so it can be poured on the hot pastry so it stays nice and crispy and it's properly absorbed. I'm going to start with 1.5 cups of water. Turn the heat on high. 1.5 cups of granulated sugar. A cinnamon stick. I'm also going to add the peel of an orange. You could use lemon instead, but I find that orange goes much better with the warm spices of cinnamon. There's going to be clove in the filling. So I do prefer orange over lemon, but you can use lemon if you like. Once the orange is zested, I'm just going to squeeze the juice inside of the syrup as well. You can throw 2-3 cloves in here too. Give it a mix and bring it to a boil. Once it comes to a boil, take it off of the heat and add 1/2 cup of Greek honey to it with 1 teaspoon of pure vanilla extract. Give it another mix, set it aside, and then let it cool completely. So next we're going to toast the sesame seeds. You're going to need 2 ounces or 50 grams of sesame seeds. Put them in a small frying pan and over medium heat, cook them or toast them until they're nice and golden. That's going to take about 4 or 5 minutes. Make sure you stay on top of it so that way they do not burn. Once they're golden, take them off of the heat. Then you're just going to want to melt 2 sticks or 250 grams of unsalted butter. Now it's time to put the filling ingredients together. So over here I have 2 cups or 200 grams of walnuts that I just passed through the food processor until they were finely chopped. And then I also have 1 cup or 100 grams of almonds that I have also finely chopped. If you toast your nuts in the oven for about 5 minutes or so, it is going to intensify their flavor. So I'm going to add the sesame seeds to this. 1 to 2 teaspoons of cinnamon. And if you're like me and you love it, you're going to go with the 2 heaping teaspoons. 1/2 teaspoon of ground cloves. This gives all that delicious baklava flavor. And it's optional, but if you add the zest of an orange, it is going to wake it up a little bit. And then just mix everything all up until it's nicely combined. It smells so good. I'm going to add a tiny bit more ground cinnamon. And that's it. The filling is that simple. So easy to do. Now I'm going to open up the pack of phyllo pastry. Again, like I said, this is country phyllo, so it's thicker cut, fewer sheets of phyllo in each packet. It's sold in the freezer section of specialty food stores most of the time. Unless you can't find it, then you can get it online. This is the number 10. So just in case, you're going to find it in Middle Eastern and Mediterranean specialty food stores. We're not going to use all of it unless you're making a double batch. We only need 4 layers of it, 4 sheets of it. So we're going to work with 2 sheets at a time. You take 1 sheet and you put it on your board and you drizzle it with lots of butter. Concentrate on the edges so that way when you go to roll it up later on, you'll see what I mean. It'll seal shut and they won't separate. Take the other layer, put it on top, and do the same thing. Lots of butter. Then you're going to take 1/2 of this filling and you're going to spread it all over the top. And then you're going to go ahead and roll it up. While you're rolling up, when you go almost 1/3 of the way up, it's a good idea to start brushing a little bit of butter or drizzling some butter as you go. This is going to help keep it nice and sealed and get nice and crunchy. first one is almost done. We're gonna do the same thing with the next 2 layers. So before I move on to the next step, I'm going to take the remaining phyllo and wrap it up and protect it before it stays exposed to the air and dries up, and then we won't be able to use it again. I can make so many things with it. I'm going to keep it refrigerated. This will stay fresh for a few days in the refrigerator, so be sure to use it up. Otherwise, it starts to get stale and just smell bad. So I have a 9 by 13 inch baking dish that I'm going to put this in, but before it goes in there, it's going to get cut into diagonals. That's the traditional shape that these are cut into. You want to use a very sharp knife, and you start at the top with a little bit of a sawing action or motion. And you could use your knife to carefully transfer them into the dish. And brush the tops generously with all of the remaining butter. If you want to, you can put a clove in the center of each one of the diagonals. That is something that's traditionally done. It's up to you. I think that's good enough. I have just a tiny bit of butter left over. This can get refrigerated and used for a different recipe. My oven is preheated to 350 degrees Fahrenheit. They're gonna bake on the center rack for between 35 to 45 minutes or until they're beautifully golden all around. As soon as they come out of the oven, I'm gonna pour the syrup on top, and then they're gonna sit for about 20-30 minutes until all of the syrup is absorbed. It is best to let them sit for an hour or two, but we don't have time to wait that long. Then I'm just gonna make some coffee and I'm gonna serve them. I'm gonna show you what they look like as soon as they're done. So my samousades took almost an hour to bake in my oven. Keep an eye on them at the 45-minute mark. Look at them, and if they're not golden enough, let them bake a little bit longer so that way they get nice and crispy. You want the phyllo to be crispy, so that way when that syrup goes on them, once they come out of the oven, it just absorbs properly and you keep it at the right texture and the right consistency. Let them sit in the syrup as long as possible and then serve them with some coffee. Now, I first heard of these a few weeks ago when I was hanging out with the ladies of Penelope over in the New Jersey chapter. I had such a good time chatting with them, and they told me about these, and I looked it up and recipe tested, and sure enough, they're delicious enough to share with you. I think you guys are going to love them. It is time for the taste test. So good. I love that orange. I love that orange flavor. It complements the sesame seeds and the walnuts and almonds and all the other flavors so good. It goes so good together. The top of the samousades are still crispy. The inside is kind of chewy and delicious because of the syrup that's on there. Amazing, a delicious dessert. This would go well with a nice scoop of ice cream if you ask me. You can definitely make this vegan. I know a lot of people are still fasting for Lent, or they're just looking for vegan recipes. By swapping out the butter for a vegan alternative, you could use a light olive oil or something like that. I'm not really familiar with the vegan butters, so let me know what you guys use in the comment section down below. The recipe, as always, is on the website, dimitrasdishes.com. Definitely serve this with some Greek coffee. Thank you guys so much for spending time with me today. And if you want to learn how to make Greek coffee, click over here and I will see you right over there. Yes,